Genesis. In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening and there was morning, one day. And God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. And there was evening and there was morning, the second day. And God said, "Let the waters under the heavens be gathered together to one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and he called the gathering together of the waters seas. And God saw that it was good. And God said, "Let the earth put forth grass, herbs yielding seed, and fruit trees bearing fruit according to their kind, and which is the seed of them, upon the earth." And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, herbs yielding seed according to their kind, and trees bearing fruit in which is the seed of it, according to their kind. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening and there was morning, a third day. And God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days and years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of heaven to give light upon the earth." And it was so. And God made the two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night, also the stars. And God set them in the firmament of heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening and there was morning, a fourth day. And God said, "Let the waters swarm with swarms of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven." And God created the great sea creatures, and every living creature that moves, which the waters brought forth abundantly, according to their kind, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful, and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let birds multiply on the earth." And there was evening and there was morning, a fifth day. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth living creatures according to their kind, cattle, and creeping things, and beasts of the earth according to their kind." And it was so. And God made the beasts of the earth according to their kind, and the cattle according to their kind, and everything that creeps upon the ground according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. And God said, "Let us make mankind in our image after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth." And God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. And God blessed them. And God said to them, "Be fruitful, and multiply, and fill the earth, and have power over it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over every living thing that moves upon the earth." And God said, "Behold, I have given you every herb yielding seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree, and which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for food. And to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the heavens, and to everything that creeps upon the earth in which there is life, for food every green herb." And it was so. And God saw everything that he had made, and, behold, it was very good. And there was evening and there was morning, the sixth day. And the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day God finished his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And God blessed the seventh day, and hallowed it, because in it he rested from all his work which God had created and made. These are the generations of the heavens and of the earth when they were created, in the day that Jehovah God made earth and heaven. And no plant of the field was yet in the earth, and no herb of the field had yet sprung up, for Jehovah God had not caused it to rain upon the earth. And there was not a man to till the ground. But there went up a mist from the earth, and watered the whole face of the ground. And Jehovah God formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. And Jehovah God planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground Jehovah God made to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight, and good for food, also the tree of life in the midst of the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And the river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from there it was divided, and became 4 heads. The name of the first is Pishon. That is it which encompasses the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold. And the gold of that land is good. There is bdellium and the onyx stone. And the name of the second river is Gihon. The same is it which encompasses the whole land of Cush. And the name of the third river is Hiddekel. That is it which goes in front of Assyria. And the fourth river is the Euphrates. And Jehovah God took the man, and put him into the garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. And Jehovah God commanded the man, saying, Of every tree of the garden thou may freely eat. But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it. For in the day that thou eat of it thou shalt surely die. And Jehovah God said, It is not good that the man should be alone. I will make a helpmeet for him. And out of the ground Jehovah God formed every beast of the field, and every bird of the heavens, and brought them to the man to see what he would call them. And whatever the man called every living creature, that was the name of it. And the man gave names to all cattle, and to the birds of the heavens, and to every beast of the field, but for man there was not found a helpmeet for him. And Jehovah God caused the deep sleep to fall upon the man, and he slept. And God took one of his ribs, and closed up the flesh in place of it. And the rib, which Jehovah God had taken from the man, he made a woman, and brought her to the man. And the man said, This is now bone of my bones, and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother, and shall cling to his wife, and the two shall be one flesh. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. Now the serpent was more cunning than any beast of the field which Jehovah God had made. And he said to the woman, Yea, as God said, Ye shall not eat of any tree of the garden? And the woman said to the serpent, Of the fruit of the trees of the garden we may eat. But of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God has said, Ye shall not eat of it, nor shall ye touch it, lest ye die. And the serpent said to the woman, Ye shall not surely die. For God knows that in the day ye eat of it, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was to be desired to make wise, she took of the fruit of it, and ate. And she also gave to her husband with her, and he ate. And the eyes of them both were opened, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together, and made themselves aprons. And they heard the voice of Jehovah God walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And the man and his wife hid themselves from the presence of Jehovah God amongst the trees of the garden. And Jehovah God called to the man, and said to him, Where art thou? And he said, I heard thy voice in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked, and I hid myself. And he said, Who told thee that thou wast naked? Have thou eaten of the tree, of which I commanded thee that thou shouldst not eat? And the man said, The woman whom thou gave to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I ate. And Jehovah God said to the woman, What is this thou hast done? And the woman said, The serpent beguiled me, and I ate. And Jehovah God said to the serpent, Because thou hast done this, cursed art thou above all cattle, and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly thou shalt go, and dust thou shalt eat all the days of thy life. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. He shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. To the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy pain in thy childbearing. In pain thou shalt bring forth children. And thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. And to Adam he said, Because thou hast hearkened to the voice of thy wife, and have eaten of the tree, of which I commanded thee, saying, Thou shalt not eat of it, cursed is the ground for thy sake. In toil thou shalt eat of it all the days of thy life. Also, thorns and thistles it shall bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of thy face thou shalt eat bread, till thou return to the ground, for out of it thou wert taken. For thou art dust, and to dust thou shalt return. And the man called his wife's name Eve, because she was the mother of all living. And Jehovah God made for Adam and for his wife coats of skins, and clothed them. And Jehovah God said, Behold, the man has become as one of us, to know good and evil. And now, lest he put forth his hand, and take also of the tree of life, and eat, and live forever. Therefore Jehovah God sent him forth from the Garden of Eden, to till the ground from where he was taken. So he drove out the man. And he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden the cherubim, and the flame of a sword which turned every way, to guard the way of the tree of life. And the man knew Eve his wife, and she conceived, and bore Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from Jehovah. And again she bore his brother Abel. And Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in process of time it came to pass, that Cain brought an offering to Jehovah of the fruit of the ground. And Abel, he also brought of the firstlings of his flock and of the fat of it. And Jehovah had respect to Abel and to his offering. But he did not have respect to Cain and to his offering. And Cain was very angry, and his countenance fell. And Jehovah said to Cain, Why art thou angry? And why has thy countenance fallen? If thou do well, shalt thou not be accepted? And if thou do not well, sin crouches at the door. Its desire shall be for thee, and thou shalt rule over it. And Cain told Abel his brother. And it came to pass, when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel his brother, and killed him. And Jehovah said to Cain, Where is Abel thy brother? And he said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? And he said, What hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood cries to me from the ground. And now cursed art thou from the ground, which has opened its mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand. When thou till the ground, it shall not henceforth yield to thee its strength. A fugitive and a wanderer thou shalt be on the earth. And Cain said to Jehovah, My punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the ground, and I shall be hid from thy face, and I shall be a fugitive and a wanderer in the earth. And it shall come to pass, that whoever finds me shall slay me. And Jehovah said to him, Therefore whoever kills Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And Jehovah appointed a sign for Cain, lest any who finds him should smite him. And Cain went out from the presence of Jehovah, and dwelt in the land of Nod, on the east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived, and bore Enoch. And Cain built a city, and called the name of the city after the name of his son, Enoch. And to Enoch was born Irad, and Irad begot Mehujael, and Mehujael begot Methuselah, and Methuselah begot Lamech. And Lamech took to him 2 wives. The name of the one was Ada, and the name of the other Zillah. And Ada bore Jabal. He was the father of such as dwell in tents and have cattle. And his brother's name was Jubal. He was the father of all such as handle the harp and pipe. And Zillah, she also bore Tubal-Cain, the forger of every cutting instrument of brass and iron. and the sister of Tuval was Naamah. And Lamech said to his wives, Adah and Zillah, hear my voice, ye wives of Lamech, hearken to my speech. For I have killed a man for wounding me, and a young man for bruising me. If Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, truly Lamech 77-fold. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bore a son, and called his name Seth. For, she said, God has appointed for me another seed instead of Abel, for Cain killed him. And to Seth, to him also there was born a son, and he called his name Enosh. Then men began to call upon the name of Jehovah. This is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that God created man, in the likeness of God he made him. Male and female he created them, and blessed them, and called their name man in the day when they were created. And Adam lived 130 years, and begot a son in his own likeness, according to his image, and called his name Seth. And the days of Adam were 800 years after he begot Seth. And he begot sons and daughters. And all the days that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. And Seth lived 105 years, and begot Enosh. And Seth lived 807 years after he begot Enosh, and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Seth were 912 years, and he died. And Enosh lived 90 years, and begot Kenan. And Enosh lived 815 years after he begot Kenan, and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Enosh were 905 years, and he died. And Kenan lived 70 years, and begot Mahalalel. And Kenan lived 840 years after he begot Mahalalel, and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Kenan were 910 years, and he died. And Mahalalel lived 65 years, and begot Jared. And Mahalalel lived 830 years after he begot Jared, and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Mahalalel were 895 years, and he died. And Jared lived 162 years, and begot Enoch. And Jared lived 800 years after he begot Enoch, and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Jared were 962 years, and he died. And Enoch lived 65 years, and begot Methuselah. And Enoch walked with God after he begot Methuselah 300 years, and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Enoch were 365 years. And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. And Methuselah lived 187 years, and begot Lamech. And Methuselah lived 782 years after he begot Lamech, and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Methuselah were 969 years, and he died. And Lamech lived 182 years, and begot a son. And he called his name Noah, saying, This same shall comfort us in our work and in the toil of our hands, because of the ground which Jehovah has cursed. And Lamech lived 595 years after he begot Noah, and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Lamech were 777 years, and he died. And Noah was 500 years old. And Noah begot Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the ground, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were fair, and they took to them wives of all that they chose. And Jehovah said, My spirit shall not abide in man forever, for he also is flesh. Yet shall his days be 120 years. The giants were on the earth in those days. And also after that, when the sons of God came to the daughters of men, and they bore sons to them, the same were the mighty men who were of old, the men of renown. And Jehovah saw that the wickedness of man was great on the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And Jehovah regretted that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him in his heart. And Jehovah said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the ground, from man, to beasts, to creeping things, and birds of the heavens, for I regret that I have made them. But Noah found favor in the eyes of Jehovah. These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, perfect in his generations. Noah walked with God, and Noah begot 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And the earth was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. And God saw the earth, and, behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way upon the earth. And God said to Noah, The end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them, and, behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make thee an ark of gopher wood. Thou shalt make rooms in the ark, and shalt pitch it inside and outside with pitch. And this is how thou shalt make it: the length of the ark 300 cubits, the breadth of it 50 cubits, and the height of it 30 cubits. Thou shalt make a light for the ark, and thou shalt finish it to a cubit upward. And thou shalt set the door of the ark in the side of it, with lower, second, and third stories thou shalt make it. And I, behold, I bring the flood of waters upon this earth, to destroy all flesh, in which is the breath of life from under heaven. Everything that is on the earth shall die. But I will establish my covenant with thee. And thou shalt come into the ark, thou, and thy sons, and thy wife, and thy sons' wives with thee. And of every living thing of all flesh, 2 of every sort thou shalt bring into the ark, to keep them alive with thee. They shall be male and female. Of the birds according to their kind, and of the cattle according to their kind, of every creeping thing of the ground according to its kind. 2 of every sort shall come to thee, to keep them alive. And take thou to thee of all food that is eaten, and gather it to thee, and it shall be for food for thee and for them. Thus Noah did according to all that God commanded him, so he did. And Jehovah said to Noah, Come, thou and all thy house into the ark, for I have seen thee righteous before me in this generation. Of every clean beast thou shalt take to thee by 7s, the male and his female. And of the beasts that are not clean too, the male and his female. Also of the birds of the heavens by 7s, male and female, to keep seed alive upon the face of all the earth. For yet 7 days, and I will cause it to rain upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights, and every living thing that I have made I will destroy from off the face of the ground. And Noah did according to all that Jehovah commanded him. And Noah was 600 years old when the flood of waters was upon the earth. And Noah went in, and his sons, and his wife, and his sons' wives with him, into the ark, because of the waters of the flood. Of clean beasts, and of beasts that are not clean, and of birds, and of everything that creeps upon the ground. There went in 2 by 2 to Noah into the ark, male and female, as God commanded Noah. And it came to pass after the 7 days, that the waters of the flood were upon the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, on the 17th day of the month, on the same day all the fountains of the great deep were broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened. And the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. In the selfsame day Noah, and Shem, and Ham, and Japheth, the sons of Noah, and Noah's wife, and the 3 wives of his sons with them, entered into the ark. They, and every beast according to its kind, and all the cattle according to their kind, and every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth according to its kind, and every bird according to its kind, every bird of every sort. And they went into Noah into the ark, 2 by 2 of all flesh, in which is the breath of life. And those that went in male and female of all flesh, as God commanded him. And Jehovah shut him in. And the flood was 40 days upon the earth. And the waters increased, and bore up the ark, and it was lifted up above the earth. And the waters prevailed, and increased greatly upon the earth, and the ark went upon the face of the waters. And the waters prevailed exceedingly upon the earth, and all the high mountains that were under the whole heaven were covered 15 cubits upward. The waters prevailed, and the mountains were covered, and all flesh died that moved upon the earth, from birds to cattle to beasts, and every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth, and every man, all in whose nostrils was the breath of the spirit of life, of all that was on the dry land, died. And every living thing was destroyed that was upon the face of the ground, from man to cattle to creeping things, and birds of the heavens, and they were destroyed from the earth. And only Noah was left, and those who were with him in the ark. And the waters prevailed upon the earth 150 days. And God remembered Noah, and all the beasts, and all the cattle that were with him in the ark. And God made a wind to pass over the earth, and the waters subsided. Also the fountains of the deep and the windows of heaven were stopped, and the rain from heaven was restrained. And the waters returned from off the earth continually. And after the end of 150 days the waters decreased. And the ark rested in the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, upon the mountains of Ararat. And the waters decreased continually until the 10th month. In the 10th month, on the 1st day of the month, the tops of the mountains were seen. And it came to pass at the end of 40 days that Noah opened the window of the ark which he had made. And he sent forth a raven, and it went forth to and fro, until the waters were dried up from off the earth. And he sent forth a dove from him, to see if the waters were abated from off the face of the ground. But the dove found no rest for the sole of her foot. And she returned to him to the ark, for the waters were on the face of the whole earth. And he put forth his hand, and took her, and brought her into him into the ark. And he stayed yet another 7 days, and again he sent forth the dove out of the ark. And the dove came into him at evening, and, lo, in her mouth an olive leaf plucked off. So Noah knew that the waters were abated from off the earth. And he stayed yet 7 other days, and sent forth the dove. And she did not return again to him any more. And it came to pass in the 601st year, in the 1st month, the 1st day of the month, the waters were dried up from off the earth. And Noah removed the covering of the ark, and looked. And, behold, the face of the ground was dried. And in the 2nd month, on the 27th day of the month, the earth was dry. And God spoke to Noah, saying, Go forth from the ark, thou, and thy wife, and thy sons' wives with thee. Bring forth with thee every living thing that is with thee of all flesh, both birds and cattle, and every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth, that they may breed abundantly on the earth, and be fruitful, and multiply upon the earth. And Noah went forth, and his sons, and his wife, and his sons' wives with him. Every beast, every creeping thing, and every bird, whatever moves upon the earth, according to their families, went forth out of the ark. And Noah built an altar to Jehovah, and took of every clean beast, and of every clean bird, and offered burnt offerings on the altar. And Jehovah smelled the sweet savor. And Jehovah said in his heart, I will not again curse the ground any more for man's sake, for that the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth. Neither will I again any more smite everything living, as I have done. While the earth remains, seedtime and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. And God blessed Noah and his sons, and said to them, Be fruitful, and multiply, and fill the earth. And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and upon every bird of the heavens, with all with which the ground teems, and all the fishes of the sea. They are delivered into your hand. Every moving thing that lives shall be food for you. As the green herb, I have given you all. But flesh with the life of it, which is the blood of it, ye shall not eat. And surely your blood, the blood of your lives, I will require. At the hand of every beast I will require it. And at the hand of man, even at the hand of every man's brother, I will require the life of man. Whoever sheds man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed. For in the image of God he made man. And you, be ye fruitful, and multiply. Bring forth abundantly on the earth, and multiply on it. And God spoke to Noah and to his sons with him, saying, And I, behold, I establish my covenant with you, and with your seed after you, and with every living creature that is with you, the birds, the cattle, and every beast of the earth with you, of all that go out of the ark, even every beast of the earth. And I will establish my covenant with you. Neither shall all flesh be cut off any more by the waters of the flood, nor shall there be a flood any more to destroy the earth. And God said, This is the sign of the covenant which I make between me and you and every living creature that is with you, for perpetual generations. I set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be for a sign of a covenant between me and the earth. And it shall come to pass, when I bring a cloud over the earth, that the bow shall be seen in the cloud. And I will remember my covenant, which is between me and you and every living creature of all flesh. And the waters shall no more become a flood to destroy all flesh. And the bow shall be in the cloud, and I will look upon it, that I may remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of all flesh that is upon the earth. And God said to Noah, This is the sign of the covenant which I have established between me and all flesh that is upon the earth. And the sons of Noah, who went forth from the ark, were Shem, and Ham, and Japheth. And Ham is the father of Canaan. These three were the sons of Noah, and from these the whole earth was spread over. And Noah began to be a farmer, and planted a vineyard. And he drank of the wine, and was drunken. And he was uncovered within his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father, and told his two brothers outside. And Shem and Japheth took a garment, and laid it upon both their shoulders, and went backward, and covered the nakedness of their father. And their faces were backward, and they did not see their father's nakedness. And Noah woke from his wine, and knew what his youngest son had done to him. And he said, Cursed be Canaan. He shall be a servant of servants to his brothers. And he said, Blessed be Jehovah, the God of Shem, and let Canaan be his servant. God enlarged Japheth, and let him dwell in the tents of Shem, and let Canaan be his servant. And Noah lived 350 years after the flood. And all the days of Noah were 950 years, and he died. Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, of Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And sons were born to them after the flood. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog, and Madai, and Javan, and Tubal, and Meshech, and Tyrus. And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, and Riphath, and Togarmah. And the sons of Javan, Elisha, and Tarshish, Kiddam, and Dadan. From these were the islands of the nations divided in their lands, every man according to his tongue, according to their families, in their nations. And the sons of Ham, Cush, and Mizraim, and Put, and Canaan. And the sons of Cush, Seba, and Havilah, and Sabta, and Raama, and Sabteka. And the sons of Raama, Sheba, and Dedan. And Cush begot Nimrod. He began to be a mighty man on the earth. He was a mighty hunter before Jehovah. Therefore it is said, like Nimrod, a mighty hunter before Jehovah. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh, in the land of Shinar. He went forth out of that land into Assyria, and built Nineveh, and Rehoboth-ir, and Calah. And reasoned between Nineveh and Calah, the same as the great city. And Mizraim begot Ludim, and Anamim, and Lehabim, and Naphtuhim, and Pathrusim, and Casluhim, from where the Philistines went forth, and Caphtor. And Canaan begot Sidon his firstborn, and Heth, and the Jebusite, and the Amorite, and the Girgashite, and the Hivite, and the Archite, and the Sinite, and the Arvadite, and the Zemarite, and the Hamathite. And afterward the families of the Canaanite were spread abroad. And the border of the Canaanite was from Sidon, as thou go toward Gerar, to Gaza, as thou go toward Sodom and Gomorrah and Admah and Zeboim, to Lasha. These are the sons of Ham, according to their families, according to their tongues, in their lands, in their nations. And to Shem, the father of all the sons of Eber, the elder brother of Japheth, sons were also born to him. The sons of Shem, Elam, and Ashur, and Arphaxad, and Lud, and Aram. And the sons of Aram, Uz, and Huel, and Gether, and Mash. And Arphaxad begot Shelah, and Shelah begot Eber. And to Eber were born 2 sons. The name of the one was Peleg, for in his days the earth was divided. And his brother's name was Joktan. And Joktan begot Almodad, and Shelef, and Hazarmaveth, and Jerah, and Hadorm, and Uzal, and Deklah, and Obal, and Abimael, and Sheba, and Ophir, and Havilah, and Jobab. All these were the sons of Joktan, and their dwelling was from Mesha, as thou go toward Sephir, the mountain of the east. These are the sons of Shem, according to their families, according to their tongues, in their lands, according to their nations. These are the families of the sons of Noah, according to their generations, in their nations. And from these the nations were divided on the earth after the flood. And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass, as they journeyed east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, Come, let us make brick, and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and they had slime for mortar. And they said, Come, let us build a city for us, and a tower, and its top in the heavens. And let us make a name for us, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. And Jehovah came down to see the city and the tower, which the sons of men built. And Jehovah said, Behold, they are one people, and they have all one language, and this is what they begin to do. And now nothing will be withheld from them, which they propose to do. Come, let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not understand each other's speech. So Jehovah scattered them abroad from there upon the face of all the earth, and they left off building the city. Therefore the name of it was called Babel, because Jehovah there confounded the language of all the earth, and from there Jehovah scattered them abroad upon the face of all the earth. These are the generations of Shem. Shem was 100 years old, and begot Arphaxad 2 years after the flood. And Shem lived 500 years after he begot Arphaxad, and begot sons and daughters. And Arphaxad lived 135 years, and begot Canaan. And Arphaxad lived after he had begotten Canaan 400 years, and begot sons and daughters, and died. And Canaan lived 130 years and begot Shelah. And Canaan lived after he had begotten Shelah 330 years, and begot sons and daughters, and died. And Shelah lived 30 years, and begot Eber. And Shelah lived 403 years after he begot Eber, and begot sons and daughters. And Eber lived 34 years, and begot Peleg. And Eber lived 430 years after he begot Peleg, and begot sons and daughters. And Peleg lived 30 years, and begot Reu. And Peleg lived 209 years after he begot Reu, and begot sons and daughters. And Reu lived 32 years, and begot Serug. And Reu lived 207 years after he begot Serug, and begot sons and daughters. And Serug lived 30 years, and begot Nahor. And Serug lived 200 years after he begot Nahor, and begot sons and daughters. And Nahor lived 29 years, and begot Terah. And Nahor lived 119 years after he begot Terah, and begot sons and daughters. And Terah lived 70 years, and begot Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Now these are the generations of Terah. Terah begot Abram, Nahor, and Haran. And Haran begot Lot. And Haran died before his father Terah in the land of his nativity, in Ur of the Chaldees. And Abram and Nahor took wives to themselves. The name of Abram's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's wife, Milcah, the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah, and the father of Iscah. And Sarai was barren, she had no child. And Terah took Abram his son, and Lot the son of Haran, his son's son, and Sarai his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife. And they went forth with him from Ur of the Chaldees to go into the land of Canaan. And they came to Haran, and dwelt there. And the days of Terah were 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. Now Jehovah said to Abram, Get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, to the land that I will show thee. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and be thou a blessing. And I will bless those who bless thee, and he who curses thee I will curse. And in thee shall all the families of the earth be blessed. So Abram went as Jehovah had spoken to him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. And Abram took Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their substance that they had gathered, and the souls that they had gotten in Haran, and they went forth to go into the land of Canaan. And they came into the land of Canaan. And Abram passed through the land to the place of Shechem, to the oak of Moreh. And the Canaanite was then in the land. And Jehovah appeared to Abram, and said, I will give this land to thy seed. And there he built an altar to Jehovah, who appeared to him. And he moved from there to the mountain on the east of Bethel, and pitched his tent, having Bethel on the west, and Ai on the east. And there he built an altar to Jehovah, and called upon the name of Jehovah. And Abram journeyed, going on still toward the south. And there was a famine in the land. And Abram went down into Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was severe in the land. And it came to pass, when he came near to enter into Egypt, that he said to Sarai his wife, Behold now, I know that thou art a fair woman to look upon. And it shall come to pass, when the Egyptians shall see thee, that they shall say, This is his wife. And they will kill me, but they will save thee alive. Say, I pray thee, Thou art my sister, that it may be well with me for thy sake, and that my soul may live because of thee. And it came to pass that, when Abram came into Egypt, the Egyptians beheld the woman that she was very fair. And the princes of Pharaoh saw her, and praised her to Pharaoh. And the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house, and he dealt well with Abram for her sake. And he had sheep, and oxen, and he donkeys, and men servants, and maid servants, and she donkeys, and camels. And Jehovah plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. And Pharaoh called Abram, and said, What is this that thou hast done to me? Why did thou not tell me that she was thy wife? Why did thou say, She is my sister, so that I took her to be my wife? Now therefore behold thy wife. Take her, and go thy way. And Pharaoh gave men command concerning him. And they brought him on the way, and his wife, and all that he had. And Abram went up out of Egypt, he, and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him, into the south. And Abram was very rich in cattle, in silver, and in gold. And he went on his journeys from the south even to Bethel, to the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Ai, to the place of the altar, which he had made there at the first. And Abram called on the name of Jehovah there. And Lot also, who went with Abram, had flocks, and herds, and tents. And the land was not able to bear them, that they might dwell together. For their substance was great, so that they could not dwell together. And there was a strife between the herdsmen of Abram's cattle and the herdsmen of Lot's cattle. And the Canaanite and the Perizzite then dwelt in the land. And Abram said to Lot, Let there be no strife, I pray thee, between me and thee, and between my herdsmen and thy herdsmen, for we are brothers. Is not the whole land before thee? Separate thyself, I pray thee, from me. If the left hand, then I will go to the right. or of the right hand, then I will go to the left. And Lot lifted up his eyes, and beheld all the plain of the Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere, before Jehovah destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, like the garden of Jehovah, like the land of Egypt, as thou go to Zoar. So Lot chose for himself all the plain of the Jordan. And Lot journeyed east, and they separated themselves the one from the other. Abram dwelt in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelt in the cities of the plain, and moved his tent as far as Sodom. Now the men of Sodom were exceedingly wicked and sinners against Jehovah. And Jehovah said to Abram, after Lot was separated from him, Lift up now thine eyes, and look from the place where thou art, northward and southward and eastward and westward. For all the land which thou see, to thee I will give it, and to thy seed forever. And I will make thy seed as the dust of the earth, so that if a man can number the dust of the earth, then may thy seed also be numbered. Arise, walk through the land in the length of it and in the breadth of it, for to thee I will give it. And Abram moved his tent, and came and dwelt by the oaks of Mamre, which are in Hebron, and built an altar there to Jehovah. And it came to pass in the days of Amraphel king of Shinar, Arioch king of Elasar, Kedorlaomer king of Elam, and Tidal king of Goyim, that they made war with Bera king of Sodom, and with Bersha king of Gomorrah, Shinab king of Admah, and Shemeber king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, the same as Zoar. All these joined together in the valley of Siddim, the same as the Salt Sea. They served Kedorlaomer 12 years, and in the 13th year they rebelled. And in the 14th year Kedorlaomer came, and the kings that were with him, and smote the Rephaim in Ashtaroth Karnaim, and the Zuzim in Ham, and the Emim in Shaveh Kiriathaim, and the Horites on their Mount Seir to Elpern, which is by the wilderness. And they returned, and came to Mishpat, the same as Kadesh, and smote all the country of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites, who dwelled in Hazazon Tamar. And there went out the king of Sodom, and the king of Gomorrah, and the king of Admah, and the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, the same as Zoar, and they set the battle in array against them in the valley of Siddim, against Kedorlaomer king of Elam, and Tidal king of Goyim, and Amraphel king of Shinar, and Arioch king of Elasar, 4 kings against the 5. Now the valley of Siddim was full of slime pits, and the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, and they fell there. And those who remained fled to the mountain. And they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah, and all their food, and went their way. And they took Lot, Abram's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed. And some man came who had escaped, and told Abram the Hebrew. Now he dwelt by the oaks of Mamre, the Amorite, brother of Eshcol, and brother of Aner. And these were allies with Abram. And when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he led forth his trained men, born in his house, 318, and pursued as far as Dan. And he divided himself against them by night, he and his servants, and smote them, and pursued them to Hobah, which is on the left hand of Damascus. And he brought back all the goods, and also brought back his brother Lot and his goods, and also the women and the people. And the king of Sodom went out to meet him, after his return from the slaughter of Kedorlaomer and the kings that were with him, at the valley of Shaveh, the same as the king's valley. And Melchizedek king of Salem brought forth bread and wine. And he was priest of God Most High. And he blessed him, and said, Blessed be Abram of God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth. And blessed be God Most High, who has delivered thine enemies into thy hand. And Abram gave him 1/10 of all. And the king of Sodom said to Abram, Give me the men, and take the goods to thyself. And Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted up my hand to Jehovah, God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth, that I will not take a thread nor a shoe latchet nor anything that is thine, lest thou should say, I have made Abram rich, except only that which the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men who went with me, Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre. Let them take their portion. After these things the word of Jehovah came to Abram in a vision, saying, Fear not, Abram. I am thy shield, thy exceedingly great reward. And Abram said, O Lord Jehovah, what wilt thou give me, since I go childless? And he who shall be possessor of my house is Eliezer of Damascus? And Abram said, Behold, thou hast given no seed to me, and, lo, a man born in my house is my heir. And, behold, the word of Jehovah came to him, saying, This man shall not be thine heir, but he who shall come forth out of thine own bowels shall be thine heir. And he brought him forth abroad, and said, Look now toward heaven, and number the stars, if thou be able to number them. And he said to him, So shall thy seed be. And he believed in Jehovah, and he reckoned it to him for righteousness. And he said to him, I am Jehovah who brought thee out of Ur of the Chaldees, to give thee this land to inherit it. And he said, O Lord Jehovah, how shall I know that I shall inherit it? And he said to him, Take a heifer 3 years old for me, and a she-goat 3 years old, and a ram 3 years old, and a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. And he took all these for him, and divided them in the midst, and laid each half opposite the other. But he did not divide the birds. And the birds of prey came down upon the carcasses, and Abram drove them away. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram. And, lo, a horror of great darkness fell upon him. And he said to Abram, Know of a certainty that thy seed shall be sojourners in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also I will judge that nation, whom they shall serve, and afterward they shall come out with great substance. But thou wilt go to thy fathers in peace, thou wilt be buried in a good old age. And in the 4th generation they shall come here again, for the iniquity of the Amorite is not yet full. And it came to pass, that, when the sun went down, and it was dark, behold, a smoking furnace, and a flaming torch that passed between these pieces. In that day Jehovah made a covenant with Abram, saying, To thy seed I have given this land, from the river of Egypt to the great river, the river Euphrates, the Kenite, and the Kenzite, and the Cadmonite, and the Hittite, and the Perizzite, and the Rephaim, and the Amorite, and the Canaanite, and the Girgashite, and the Jebusite. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, bore him no sons, and she had a handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. And Sarai said to Abram, Behold now, Jehovah has restrained me from bearing. Go in, I pray thee, to my handmaid. It may be that I will obtain sons by her. And Abram hearkened to the voice of Sarai. And Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar the Egyptian, her handmaid, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to Abram her husband to be his wife. And he went into Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. And Sarai said to Abram, My wrong be upon thee. I gave my handmaid into thy bosom, and when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. Jehovah judged between me and thee. But Abram said to Sarai, Behold, thy maid is in thy hand, do to her that which is good in thine eyes. And Sarai dealt harshly with her, and she fled from her face. And the agent of Jehovah found her by a fountain of water in the wilderness, by the fountain in the way to Shur. And he said, Hagar, Sarai's handmaid, from where have thou come? And where art thou going? And she said, I am fleeing from the face of my mistress Sarai. And the agent of Jehovah said to her, Return to thy mistress, and submit thyself under her hands. And the agent of Jehovah said to her, I will greatly multiply thy seed, that it shall not be numbered for multitude. And the agent of Jehovah said to her, Behold, thou art with child, and shalt bear a son, and thou shalt call his name Ishmael, because Jehovah has heard thy affliction. And he will be a wild donkey among men, his hand against every man, and every man's hand against him, and he shall dwell in the presence of all his brothers. And she called the name of Jehovah who spoke to her, Thou art God who sees. For she said, Have I even here looked behind him who sees me? Therefore the well was called Bir Lahai Roi. Behold, it is between Kadesh and Bered. And Hagar bore Abram a son. And Abram called the name of his son, whom Hagar bore, Ishmael. And Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael to Abram. And when Abram was 99 years old, Jehovah appeared to Abram, and said to him, I am God Almighty, walk before me, and be thou perfect. And I will make my covenant between me and thee, and will multiply thee exceedingly. And Abram fell on his face. And God talked with him, saying, As for me, behold, my covenant is with thee, and thou shalt be the father of a multitude of nations. Neither shall thy name any more be called Abram, but thy name shall be Abraham, for I have made thee the father of a multitude of nations. And I will make thee exceedingly fruitful, and I will make nations of thee, and kings shall come out of thee. And I will establish my covenant between me and thee and thy seed after thee throughout their generations for an everlasting covenant, to be a God to thee and to thy seed after thee. And I will give to thee, and to thy seed after thee, the land of thy sojourning, all the land of Canaan for an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. And God said to Abraham, And as for thee, thou shalt keep my covenant, thou and thy seed after thee throughout their generations. This is my covenant, which ye shall keep, between me and you and thy seed after thee. Every male among you shall be circumcised. And ye shall be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a sign of a covenant between me and you. And he who is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you, every male throughout your generations, he who was born in the house, or bought with money of any foreigner that is not of thy seed. He who was born in thy house, and he who was bought with thy money, must be circumcised. And my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. And the uncircumcised male who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, that soul shall be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant. And God said to Abraham, As for Sarai thy wife, thou shalt not call her name Sarai, but her name shall be Sarah. And I will bless her, and moreover I will give thee a son by her. Yea, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations, kings of peoples shall be by her. Then Abraham fell upon his face, and laughed, and said in his heart, Shall a child be born to him who is 100 years old? And shall Sarah, who was 90 years old, bear? And Abraham said to God, O that Ishmael might live before thee. And God said, No, but Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son, and thou shalt call his name Isaac. And I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant for his seed after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard thee. Behold, I have blessed him, and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly. He shall beget 12 princes, and I will make him a great nation. But I will establish my covenant with Isaac, whom Sarah shall bear to thee at this set time in the next year. And he left off talking with him, and God went up from Abraham. And Abraham took Ishmael his son, and all who were born in his house, and all who were bought with his money, every male among the men of Abraham's house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin in the selfsame day, as God had said to him. And Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. And Ishmael his son was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. In the selfsame day Abraham was circumcised, and Ishmael his son. And all the men of his house, those born in the house, and those bought with money from a foreigner, were circumcised with him. And Jehovah appeared to him by the oaks of Mamre, as he sat in the tent door in the heat of the day. And he lifted up his eyes and looked, and, lo, 3 men stood by him. And when he saw them, he ran to meet them from the tent door, and bowed himself to the earth, and said, My Lord, if now I have found favor in thy sight, pass not away, I pray thee, from thy servant. Let now a little water be fetched, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. And I will fetch a morsel of bread, and strengthen ye your heart. After that ye shall pass on, inasmuch as ye came to your servant. And they said, Do so as thou hast said. And Abraham hastened into the tent to Sarah, and said, Make ready quickly 3 measures of fine meal, knead it, and make cakes. And Abraham ran to the herd, and fetched a calf tender and good, and gave it to the servant. And he hastened to dress it. And he took butter and milk, and the calf which he had dressed, and set it before them. And he stood by them under the tree, and they ate. And they said to him, Where is Sarah thy wife? And he said, Behold, in the tent. And he said, I will certainly return to thee when the season comes round, and, lo, Sarah thy wife shall have a son. And Sarah heard in the tent door, which was behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, and well stricken in age. It had ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of women. And Sarah laughed within herself, saying, After I have become old shall I have pleasure, my Lord also being old? And Jehovah said to Abraham, Why did Sarah laugh, saying, Shall I who am old certainly bear a child? Is anything too hard for Jehovah? At the set time I will return to thee, when the season comes round, and Sarah shall have a son. Then Sarah denied, saying, I did not laugh, for she was afraid. And he said, No, but thou did laugh. And the men rose up from there, and looked toward Sodom. And Abraham went with him to bring them on the way. And Jehovah said, Shall I hide from Abraham that which I do? Since Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him? For I have known him, to the end that he may command his children and his household after him, that they may keep the way of Jehovah, to do righteousness and justice, to the end that Jehovah may bring upon Abraham that which he has spoken of him. And Jehovah said, Because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grievous, I will go down now, and see whether they have done altogether according to the cry of it, which comes to me. And if not, I will know. And the men turned from there, and went toward Sodom, but Abraham yet stood before Jehovah. And Abraham drew near, and said, Wilt thou consume righteous men with wicked men? Perhaps there are 50 righteous men within the city. Wilt thou consume and not spare the place for the 50 righteous men that are in it? That be far from thee to do after this manner, to slay a righteous man with a wicked man, that so the righteous man should be as the wicked man. Far be it from thee. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? And Jehovah said, If I find in Sodom 50 righteous men within the city, then I will spare all the place for their sake. And Abraham answered and said, Behold now, I have taken upon me to speak to the Lord, who am but dust and ashes. Perhaps there shall lack 5 of the 50 righteous men. Wilt thou destroy all the city for lack of 5? And he said, I will not destroy it, if I find there 45. And he spoke to him yet again, and said, Perhaps there shall be 40 found there. And he said, I will not do it for the 40's sake. And he said, O let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak. Perhaps there shall be 30 found there. And he said, I will not do it, if I find 30 there. And he said, Behold now, I have taken upon me to speak to the Lord. Perhaps there shall be 20 found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for the 20's sake. And he said, O let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak yet but this once. Perhaps 10 shall be found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for the 10's sake. And Jehovah went his way as soon as he had left off conversing with Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. And the 2 agents came to Sodom that evening, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. And Lot saw them, and rose up to meet them. And he bowed himself with his face to the earth. And he said, Behold now, my lords, turn aside, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night, and wash your feet, and ye shall rise up early, and go on your way. And they said, No, but we will abide in the street all night. And he urged them greatly. And they turned into him, and entered into his house. And he made a feast for them, and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. But before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, encompassed the house around, both young and old, all the people from every quarter. And they called to Lot, and said to him, Where are the men who came into thee this night? Bring them out to us, that we may know them. And Lot went out to them to the door, and shut the door after him. And he said, I pray you, my brothers, do not so wickedly. Behold now, I have 2 daughters who have not known a man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out to you, and do ye to them as is good in your eyes. Only do nothing to these men, inasmuch as they have come under the shadow of my roof. And they said, Stand back. And they said, This one fellow came into sojourn, and he will be a judge. Now we will deal worse with thee than with them. And they pressed greatly upon the man, even Lot, and drew near to break the door. But the men put forth their hand, and brought Lot into the house to them, and shut to the door. And they smote the men who were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they wearied themselves to find the door. And the men said to Lot, Have thou here any besides? Son-in-law, and thy sons, and thy daughters, and whomever thou have in the city, bring them out of the place. For we will destroy this place, because the cry of them has been great before Jehovah. And Jehovah has sent us to destroy it. And Lot went out, and spoke to his sons-in-law, who married his daughters, and said, Up, get you out of this place, for Jehovah will destroy the city. But he seemed to his sons-in-law as a man jesting. And when the morning arose, then the agents hurried Lot, saying, Rise, take thy wife, and thy 2 daughters who are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city. But he lingered. And the men laid hold upon his hand, and upon the hand of his wife, and upon the hand of his 2 daughters, Jehovah being merciful to him. And they brought him forth, and set him outside the city. And it came to pass, when they had brought them forth abroad, that he said, Escape for thy life, do not look behind thee, neither stay thou in all the plain. Escape to the mountain, lest thou be consumed. And Lot said to them, Oh, not so, my lord. Behold now, thy servant has found favor in thy sight, and thou hast magnified thy loving kindness, which thou hast shown to me in saving my life, and I cannot escape to the mountain, lest evil overtake me, and I die. Behold now, this city is near to flee to, and it is a little one. Oh, let me escape there, is it not a little one? And my soul shall live. And he said to him, See, I have accepted thee concerning this thing also, that I will not overthrow the city of which thou hast spoken. Hasten thee, escape there, for I cannot do anything till thou have come there. Therefore the name of the city was called Zoar. The sun was risen upon the earth when Lot came to Zoar. Then Jehovah rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from Jehovah out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities, and all the plain, and all the inhabitants of the cities, and that which grew upon the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. And Abraham got up early in the morning to the place where he had stood before Jehovah. And he looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah, and toward all the land of the plain, and beheld, and, lo, the smoke of the land went up as the smoke of a furnace. And it came to pass, when God destroyed the cities of the plain, that God remembered Abraham, and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, when he overthrew the cities in which Lot dwelt. And Lot went up out of Zoar, and dwelt in the mountain, and his 2 daughters with him, for he feared to dwell in Zoar. And he dwelt in a cave, he and his 2 daughters. And the firstborn said to the younger, Our father is old, and there is not a man on the earth to come into us after the manner of all the earth. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve seed by our father. And they made their father drink wine that night. And the firstborn went in, and lay with her father. And he did not know when she lay down, nor when she arose. And it came to pass on the morrow, that the firstborn said to the younger, Behold, I lay last night with my father. Let us make him drink wine this night also, and go thou in, and lie with him, that we may preserve seed by our father. And they made their father drink wine that night also. And the younger arose, and lay with him. And he did not know when she lay down, nor when she arose. Thus both the daughters of Lot were with child by their father. And the firstborn bore a son, and called his name Moab. The same is the father of the Moabites to this day. And the younger, she also bore a son, and called his name Ben-Ami. The same is the father of the sons of Ammon to this day. And Abraham journeyed from there toward the land of the south, and dwelt between Kadesh and Shur. And he sojourned in Gerar. And Abraham said of Sarah his wife, She is my sister. And Abimelech king of Gerar sent, and took Sarah. But God came to Abimelech in a dream of the night, and said to him, Behold, thou art but a dead man, because of the woman whom thou hast taken, for she is a man's wife. Now Abimelech had not come near her. And he said, Lord, wilt thou slay even a righteous nation? Did he not himself say to me, She is my sister? And she, even she herself said, He is my brother. In the integrity of my heart and the innocence of my hands I have done this. And God said to him in the dream, Yes, I know that in the integrity of thy heart thou hast done this. And I also withheld thee from sinning against me. Therefore I did not allow thee to touch her. Now therefore restore the man's wife. For he is a prophet, and he shall pray for thee, and thou shalt live. And if thou do not restore her, know thou that thou shalt surely die, thou, and all that are thine. And Abimelech rose early in the morning, and called all his servants, and told all these things in their ear. And the men were exceedingly afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham, and said to him, What hast thou done to us? And in what have I sinned against thee, that thou hast brought on me and on my kingdom a great sin? Thou hast done deeds to me that ought not to be done. And Abimelech said to Abraham, What didst thou see, that thou hast done this thing? And Abraham said, Because I thought, Surely the fear of God is not in this place, and they will kill me because of my wife. And moreover she is indeed my sister, the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife. And it came to pass, when God caused me to wander from my father's house, that I said to her, This is thy kindness which thou shalt show to me. At every place where we shall come, say of me, He is my brother. And Abimelech took sheep and oxen, and men servants and women servants, and gave them to Abraham, and restored to him Sarah his wife. And Abimelech said, Behold, my land is before thee. Dwell where it pleases thee. And to Sarah he said, Behold, I have given thy brother 1,000 pieces of silver. Behold, it is for thee a covering of the eyes to all who are with thee, and in regard to all thou art righted. And Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech, and his wife, and his maidservants. And they bore sons. For Jehovah had closed up fast all the wombs of the house of Abimelech, because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. And Jehovah visited Sarah as he had said, and Jehovah did to Sarah as he had spoken. And Sarah conceived, and bore Abraham a son in his old age, at the set time of which God had spoken to him. And Abraham called the name of his son who was born to him, whom Sarah bore to him, Isaac. And Abraham circumcised his son Isaac when he was 8 days old, as God had commanded him. And Abraham was 100 years old, when his son Isaac was born to him. And Sarah said, God has made me to laugh. Everyone who hears will laugh with me. And she said, Who would have said to Abraham, that Sarah should give son suck? For I have borne him a son in his old age. And the child grew and was weaned. And Abraham made a great feast on the day that Isaac was weaned. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abraham, mocking. Therefore she said to Abraham, Cast out this handmaid and her son. For the son of this handmaid shall not be heir with my son, even with Isaac. And the thing was very grievous in Abraham's sight on account of his son. And God said to Abraham, Let it not be grievous in thy sight because of the lad, and because of thy handmaid. In all that Sarah says to thee, hearken to her voice. For in Isaac shall thy seed be called. And also I will make a nation of the son of the handmaid, because he is thy seed. And Abraham rose up early in the morning, and took bread and a bottle of water, and gave it to Hagar, putting it on her shoulder, and the child, and sent her away. And she departed, and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. And the water in the bottle was spent, and she cast the child under one of the shrubs. And she went, and sat herself down opposite him a good way off, as it were a bow shot. For she said, Let me not look upon the death of the child. And she sat opposite him, and lifted up her voice, and wept. And God heard the voice of the lad. And the agent of God called to Hagar out of heaven, and said to her, What troubles thee, Hagar? Fear not, for God has heard the voice of the lad where he is. Arise, lift up the lad, and hold him in thy hand, for I will make him a great nation. And God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. And she went, and filled the bottle with water, and gave the lad drink. And God was with the lad, and he grew. And he dwelled in the wilderness, and became, as he grew up, an archer. And he dwelt in the wilderness of Paran. And his mother took for him a wife out of the land of Egypt. And it came to pass at that time, that Abimelech and Phicol the captain of his army spoke to Abraham, saying, God is with thee in all that thou do. Now therefore swear to me here by God that thou wilt not deal falsely with me, nor with my son, nor with my son's son. But according to the kindness that I have done to thee, thou shalt do to me, and to the land in which thou hast sojourned. And Abraham said, I will swear. And Abraham reproved Abimelech because of the well of water which Abimelech's servants had taken away violently. And Abimelech said, I know not who has done this thing, neither did thou tell me, nor yet did I hear of it, but today. And Abraham took sheep and oxen, and gave them to Abimelech. And the two made a covenant. And Abraham set 7 ewe lambs of the flock by themselves. And Abimelech said to Abraham, What do these 7 ewe lambs mean which thou hast set by themselves? And he said, These 7 ewe lambs thou shalt take from my hand, that it may be a witness to me, that I have dug this well. Therefore he called that place Beersheba, because there they swore both of them. So they made a covenant at Beersheba. And Abimelech rose up, and Phicol the captain of his army, and they returned into the land of the Philistines. And Abraham planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba, and there called on the name of Jehovah, the everlasting God. And Abraham sojourned in the land of the Philistines many days. And it came to pass after these things, that God proved Abraham, and said to him, Abraham. And he said, Here I am. And he said, Take now thy son, thine only son, whom thou love, even Isaac, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him therefore a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I will tell thee of. And Abraham rose early in the morning, and saddled his donkey, and took 2 of his young men with him, and Isaac his son. And he split the wood for the burnt offering, and rose up, and went to the place of which God had told him. On the 3rd day Abraham lifted up his eyes, and saw the place afar off. And Abraham said to his young men, Abide ye here with the donkey, and I and the lad will go yonder, and we will worship, and come again to you. And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering, and laid it upon Isaac his son. And he took in his hand the fire and the knife, and they went both of them together. And Isaac spoke to Abraham his father, and said, My father. And he said, Here I am. my son. And he said, Behold, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering? And Abraham said, God will provide himself the lamb for a burnt offering, my son. So they went both of them together. And they came to the place which God had told him of. And Abraham built the altar there, and laid the wood in order, and bound Isaac his son, and laid him on the altar, upon the wood. And Abraham stretched forth his hand, and took the knife to slay his son. And the agent of Jehovah called to him out of heaven, and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here I am. And he said, Do not lay thy hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything to him. For now I know that thou fear God, since thou hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, from me. And Abraham lifted up his eyes, and looked, and, behold, behind him a ram caught in the thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram, and offered him up for a burnt offering instead of his son. And Abraham called the name of that place Jehovah-Yireh. As it is said to this day, in the mount of Jehovah it shall be provided. And the agent of Jehovah called to Abraham a second time out of heaven, and said, By myself I have sworn, says Jehovah, because thou hast done this thing, and have not withheld thy son, thine only son, that in blessing I will bless thee, and in multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of the heavens, and as the sand which is upon the seashore, and thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies. And in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because thou hast obeyed my voice. So Abraham returned to his young men, and they rose up and went together to Beersheba. And Abraham dwelt at Beersheba. And it came to pass after these things, that it was told Abraham, saying, Behold, Milcah, she also has borne sons to thy brother Nahor, Uz his firstborn, and Buz his brother, and Kemuel the father of Aram, and Chest, and Hazel, and Pildash, and Jedloth, and Bethuel. And Bethuel begot Rebekah. These 8 Milcah bore to Nahor, Abraham's brother, and his concubine, whose name was Reumah, she also bore Tebah, and Gam, and Tahash, and Maachah. And the life of Sarah was 127 years. These were the years of the life of Sarah. And Sarah died in Kiriath Arba, the same as Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham came to mourn for Sarah, and to weep for her. And Abraham rose up from before his dead, and spoke to the sons of Heth, saying, I am a stranger and a sojourner with you. Give me a possession of a burying place with you, that I may bury my dead out of my sight. And the sons of Heth answered Abraham, saying to him, Hear us, my Lord. Thou art a prince of God among us. Bury thy dead in our choice sepulchres. None of us shall withhold from thee his sepulchre, but that thou may bury thy dead. And Abraham rose up, and bowed himself to the people of the land, even to the sons of Heth. And he conversed with them, saying, If it be your mind that I should bury my dead out of my sight, hear me, and entreat for me to Ephron the son of Zohar, that he may give me the cave of Machpelah, which he has, which is in the end of his field. Let him give it to me for the full price in the midst of you for a possession of a burying place. Now Ephron was sitting in the midst of the sons of Heth. And Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham in the audience of the sons of Heth, even of all who went in at the gate of his city, saying, No, my Lord, hear me. I give thee the field, and the cave that is in it, I give it to thee. I give it to thee in the presence of the sons of my people. Bury thy dead. And Abraham bowed himself down before the people of the land. And he spoke to Ephron in the audience of the people of the land, saying, But if thou wilt, I pray thee, hear me. I will give the price of the field. Take it from me, and I will bury my dead there. And Ephron answered Abraham, saying to him, My Lord, hearken to me. A piece of land worth 400 shekels of silver, what is that between me and thee? Therefore bury thy dead. And Abraham hearkened to Ephron. And Abraham weighed to Ephron the silver that he had named in the audience of the sons of Heth, 400 shekels of silver, current money with the merchant. So the field of Ephron, which was in Machpelah, which was before Mamre, the field, and the cave which was in it, and all the trees that were in the field, that were in all the border of it round about, were made sure to Abraham for a possession in the presence of the sons of Heth, before all who went in at the gate of his city. And after this, Abraham buried Sarah his wife in the cave of the field of Machpelah before Mamre, the same as Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And the field, and the cave that is in it, were made sure to Abraham for a possession of a burying place by the sons of Heth. And Abraham was old, well stricken in age. And Jehovah had blessed Abraham in all things. And Abraham said to his servant, the elder of his house, who ruled over all that he had, Put thy hand, I pray thee, under my thigh. And I will make thee swear by Jehovah, the God of heaven and the God of the earth, that thou wilt not take a wife for my son of the daughters of the Canaanites, among whom I dwell. But thou shalt go to my country and to my kindred, and take a wife for my son Isaac. And the servant said to him, Perhaps the woman will not be willing to follow me to this land. Must I bring thy son again to the land from where thou came? And Abraham said to him, Beware thou that thou not bring my son there again. Jehovah, the God of heaven, who took me from my father's house, and from the land of my nativity, and who spoke to me, and who swore to me, saying, To thy seed I will give this land, he will send his agent before thee, and thou shalt take a wife for my son from there. And if the woman be not willing to follow thee, then thou shalt be clear from this my oath. Only thou shalt not bring my son there again. And the servant put his hand under the thigh of Abraham his master, and swore to him concerning this matter. And the servant took 10 camels of the camels of his master, and departed, having all goodly things of his master's in his hand. And he arose, and went to Mesopotamia, to the city of Nahor. And he made the camels to kneel down outside the city by the well of water at the time of evening, the time that women go out to draw water. And he said, O Jehovah, the God of my master Abraham, send me, I pray thee, good speed this day, and show kindness to my master Abraham. Behold, I am standing by the fountain of water, and the daughters of the men of the city are coming out to draw water. And let it come to pass, that the damsel to whom I shall say, Let down thy pitcher, I pray thee, that I may drink. And she shall say, Drink, and I will give thy camels drink also. Let the same be she that thou have appointed for thy servant Isaac. And thereby I shall know that thou hast shown kindness to my master. And it came to pass, before he was done speaking, that, behold, Rebekah came out, who was born to Bethuel the son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, with her pitcher upon her shoulder. And the damsel was very fair to look upon, a virgin, neither had any man known her. And she went down to the fountain, and filled her pitcher, and came up. And the servant ran to meet her, and said, Give me to drink, I pray thee, a little water from thy pitcher. And she said, Drink, my lord. And she hurried, and let down her pitcher upon her hand, and gave him drink. And when she had finished giving him drink, she said, I will draw for thy camels also, until they have done drinking. And she hurried, and emptied her pitcher into the trough, and ran again to the well to draw, and drew for all his camels. And the man looked steadfastly on her, keeping silent, to know whether Jehovah had made his journey prosperous or not. And it came to pass, as the camels had finished drinking, that the man took a golden ring of half a shekel weight, and 2 bracelets for her hands of 10 shekels weight of gold, and said, Whose daughter art thou? Tell me, I pray thee, is there room in thy father's house for us to lodge in? And she said to him, I am the daughter of Bethuel the son of Milcah, whom she bore to Nahor. She said moreover to him, We have both straw and provender enough, and room to lodge in. And the man bowed his head, and worshipped Jehovah. And he said, Blessed be Jehovah, the God of my master Abraham, who has not forsaken his loving kindness and his truth toward my master. As for me, Jehovah has led me in the way to the house of my master's brothers. And the damsel ran and told her mother's house according to these words. And Rebekah had a brother, and his name was Laban. And Laban ran out to the man, to the fountain. And it came to pass, when he saw the ring and the bracelets upon his sister's hands, and when he heard the words of Rebekah his sister, saying, Thus spoke the man to me, that he came to the man. And, behold, he was standing by the camels at the fountain. And he said, Come in, thou blessed of Jehovah. Why do thou stand outside? For I have prepared the house and room for the camels. And the man came into the house, and he ungirded the camels. And he gave straw and provender for the camels, and water to wash his feet and the feet of the men who were with him. And there was set before him food to eat. But he said, I will not eat until I have told my errand. And he said, Speak on. And he said, I am Abraham's servant. And Jehovah has blessed my master greatly, and he has become great. And he has given him flocks and herds, and silver and gold, and men servants and maid servants, and camels and donkeys. And Sarah my master's wife bore a son to my master when she was old. And has he given to him all that he has? And my master made me swear, saying, Thou shalt not take a wife for my son of the daughters of the Canaanites, in whose land I dwell. But thou shalt go to my father's house, and to my kindred, and take a wife for my son. And I said to my master, Perhaps the woman will not follow me. And he said to me, Jehovah, before whom I walk, will send his agent with thee, and prosper thy way. And thou shalt take a wife for my son of my kindred, and of my father's house. Then thou shalt be clear from my oath, when thou come to my kindred. And if they do not give her to thee, thou shalt be clear from my oath. And I came this day to the fountain, and said, O Jehovah, the God of my master Abraham, if thou do not prosper my way which I go. Behold, I am standing by the fountain of water, and let it come to pass, that the maiden who comes forth to draw, to whom I shall say, Give me, I pray thee, a little water from thy pitcher to drink. And she shall say to me, Both drink thou, and I will also draw for thy camels. Let the same be the woman whom Jehovah has appointed for my master's son. And before I was done speaking in my heart, behold, Rebekah came forth with her pitcher on her shoulder. And she went down to the fountain, and drew. And I said to her, Let me drink, I pray thee. And she made haste, and let down her pitcher from her shoulder, and said, Drink, and I will give thy camels drink also. So I drank, and she made the camels drink also. And I asked her, and said, Whose daughter art thou? And she said, The daughter of Bethuel, Nahor's son, whom Milcah bore to him. And I put the ring upon her nose, and the bracelets upon her hands. And I bowed my head, and worshipped Jehovah, and blessed Jehovah, the God of my master Abraham, who had led me in the right way to take my master's brother's daughter for his son. And now if ye will deal kindly and truly with my master, tell me. And if not, tell me, that I may turn to the right hand, or to the left. Then Laban and Bethuel answered and said, The thing proceeds from Jehovah, we cannot speak to thee bad or good. Behold, Rebekah is before thee, take her, and go, and let her be thy master's son's wife, as Jehovah has spoken. And it came to pass, that, when Abraham's servant heard their words, he bowed himself down to the earth to Jehovah. And the servant brought forth jewels of silver, and jewels of gold, and raiment, and gave them to Rebekah. He also gave precious things to her brother and to her mother. And they ate and drank, he and the men who were with him, and tarried all night. And they rose up in the morning, and he said, Send me away to my master. And her brother and her mother said, Let the damsel abide with us a few days, at the least 10. After that she shall go. And he said to them, "Do not hinder me, since Jehovah has prospered my way. Send me away that I may go to my master." And they said, "We will call the damsel and inquire at her mouth." And they called Rebekah and said to her, "Wilt thou go with this man?" And she said, "I will go." And they sent Rebekah their sister away, and her nurse, and Abraham's servant, and his men. And they blessed Rebekah, and said to her, "Our sister, be thou the mother of thousands of 10,000s, and let thy seed possess the gate of those who hate them." And Rebekah rose, and her damsels, and they rode upon the camels, and followed the man. And the servant took Rebekah, and went his way. And Isaac came from the way of Beer-lahai-roi, for he dwelt in the land of the south. And Isaac went out to meditate in the field at the evening. And he lifted up his eyes, and saw, and, behold, there were camels coming. And Rebekah lifted up her eyes, and when she saw Isaac, she alighted from the camel. And she said to the servant, "What man is this who walks in the field to meet us?" And the servant said, "It is my master." And she took her veil and covered herself. And the servant told Isaac all the things that he had done. And Isaac brought her into his mother Sarah's tent, and took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. And Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. And Abraham took another wife, and her name was Keturah. And she bore him Zimran, and Jokshan, and Medan, and Midian, and Ishbak, and Shua. And Jokshan begot Sheba, and Dedan. And the sons of Dedan were Shurim, and Letushim, and Laman. And the sons of Midian, Ephah, and Epher, and Hanoch, and Abida, and Eldaah. All these were the sons of Keturah. And Abraham gave all that he had to Isaac. But to the sons of the concubines that Abraham had, Abraham gave gifts. And he sent them away from Isaac his son, while he yet lived, eastward, to the east country. And these are the days of the years of Abraham's life which he lived, 175 years. And Abraham gave up the spirit, and died in a good old age, an old man, and full of years, and was gathered to his people. And Isaac and Ishmael his sons buried him in the cave of Machpelah, in the field of Ephron the son of Zohar the Hittite, which is before Mamre. The field which Abraham purchased from the sons of Heth. There Abraham was buried, and Sarah his wife. And it came to pass after the death of Abraham, that God blessed Isaac his son. And Isaac dwelt by Beer-lahai-roi. Now these are the generations of Ishmael, Abraham's son, whom Hagar the Egyptian, Sarah's handmaid, bore to Abraham. And these are the names of the sons of Ishmael, by their names, according to their generations: the firstborn of Ishmael, Neviah, and Kedar, and Adbeel, and Mibsam, and Mishma, and Dumah, and Massa, Hadad, and Tema, Jadur, Nephish, and Kedemah. These are the sons of Ishmael, and these are their names, by their villages, and by their encampments, 12 princes according to their nations. And these are the years of the life of Ishmael, 137 years. And he gave up the spirit and died, and was gathered to his people. And they dwelt from Havilah to Shur, which is before Egypt, as thou go toward Assyria. He abode opposite all his brothers. And these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begot Isaac. And Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel the Syrian of Paddan Aram, the sister of Laban the Syrian, to be his wife. And Isaac entreated Jehovah for his wife, because she was barren. And Jehovah was entreated by him, and Rebekah his wife conceived. And the children struggled together within her. And she said, "If it be so, why do I live?" And she went to inquire of Jehovah. And Jehovah said to her, "Two nations are in thy womb, and two peoples shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger." And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came forth red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. And after that his brother came forth, and his hand had hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 60 years old when she bore them. And the boys grew. And Esau was a skillful hunter, a man of the field. And Jacob was a quiet man, dwelling in tents. Now Isaac loved Esau, because he ate of his venison. And Rebekah loved Jacob. And Jacob boiled pottage. And Esau came in from the field, and he was faint. And Esau said to Jacob, Feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore his name was called Edom. And Jacob said, First sell me thy birthright. And Esau said, Behold, I am about to die, and what profit shall the birthright do to me? And Jacob said, Swear to me first. And he swore to him, and he sold his birthright to Jacob. And Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils. And he ate and drank, and rose up, and went his way. So Esau despised his birthright. And there was a famine in the land, besides the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went to Abimelech king of the Philistines, to Gerar. And Jehovah appeared to him, and said, Do not go down into Egypt. Dwell in the land which I shall tell thee of. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee, and will bless thee. For to thee, and to thy seed, I will give all these lands, and I will establish the oath that I swore to Abraham thy father. And I will multiply thy seed as the stars of heaven, and will give to thy seed all these lands, and in thy seed all the nations of the earth shall be blessed. Because Abraham obeyed my voice, and kept my order, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. And Isaac dwelt in Gerar.